Hello, Thrivers. Heather here. I hope you're doing very well. And I'm just going to be really honest. I was thinking about you. I was praying about you. And yesterday, I just felt very strongly that I needed to share a little bit of my story with you out of love and let you know that I just feel a deep sense of love for you. I may not know you very well. We may just be only friends here over social media. But I know that you are loved. I know that you are deserving of love and of happiness. And so in the spirit of that, I'd like to share with you a little bit about what I have learned about the 3 levels of love. And if you can see and hear me okay, let me know. I'm going to go over here to my screen. I love this technology. It's so cool. All right. So, okay, I can see a couple of you live. Hi, welcome. Let me know where you're coming from and how you're doing today. So I want us to do an assessment together. I like everything that we do to be a dialogue. This is not a monologue. And for you to really check in on where you're currently at. And as we do this, let's create a safe space. Let's suspend all judgment of others, including judgment of ourselves. Because that judgment only gets in the way of finding the solutions that we really want to find. So, with that being said, hello, good to see some of you there. Does that make sense? We're going to suspend our judgment so that we can take a look to see where we're at. And wherever we're at right now, it's okay, all right? So as we go into these 3 levels of love, I want you to rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 of how prevalent that love is in your relationship, okay? So, going over here, let me get my slides to work. There we go. So the first level of love is infatuation. What does infatuation sound like to you? What does that word bring up for you? That feeling of infatuation, right? It's the feeling of being head over heels. It's that feeling of I am on cloud 9. I am so in love, right? And it's really where most relationships start. It's that feeling of falling in love. And it's this feeling of, I love how you make me feel. I love that I feel special, right? And it's that kind of, flying high kind of feeling of head over heels in love. And that's where most relationships start. If we take a 30,000-foot view of this kind of level of love, none of them are good or bad, first of all. No level is good or bad, but there are some different kind of things that we might want to be aware of. There's some different mistakes and common pitfalls that people can fall into in these different levels. Okay, makes sense? But they also have their strengths. They also have, each has its own beauty as well. Okay, so if we take a 30,000-foot view of this level of love, we realize it's mostly a selfish form of love. Okay, it's I love the way you make me feel. I feel so in love. All right, now the common mistake that we see couples get into, and I'm going to be completely honest, a lot of women get caught into the idea that this love is what they need to feel their entire marriage. Well, men too. It's both. I could just speaking from a woman's perspective, like, why don't I feel the way I did when we were first engaged and when we were first newlyweds, right? The butterflies and all that stuff. And the trap here is that we think that this level of love is what marriage is all about, and that that's where we need to stay the rest of our marriage. And if we don't stay in those feelings of head over heels in love, then something's wrong with the relationship. I've been there. I felt that. I'm like, why don't I feel this like level of connection and passion that we had at the very beginning? Well, it's because my expectation was that we needed to stay in this first level of love, of absolute infatuation all the time. And that's not realistic. Yes, there are moments where we both have that feeling of elation and infatuation, but the danger comes when we think that that level is what our entire marriage is supposed to be like. And we can see this when people say things like this, like when we say, I'm in love with you, but I love you, but I'm not in love with you. We're just not connected. We just must not really be meant for each other, right? We've lost that connection. We've lost that spark. Okay. Does that make sense? So let me know on the scale of 1 to 10, how much of this level do you have in your relationship? The next level of love, level 2 here, I call it contractual. And this is where most marriages reside. I'm raising my hand right now. You can't see me, but I'm raising my hand right now. And this is where my marriage most usually is, okay? And this is the give and take in a relationship, okay? So it looks like this. I'll love you if you love me. I'll meet your needs if you meet mine. I'll help you with the kids if you do this for me. I'll communicate well with you if you communicate with me. I'll open up and be vulnerable with you. I'll be connected with you if you're open and connected with me first. Okay? Does that sound familiar? It's kind of this like, oh, you're not being open with me, so I'm not going to be open with you. Oh, you kind of treated me poorly, so now I'm going to kind of treat you poorly. Oh, you closed off this door for me when I was trying to talk to you, so now I'm going to be closed off to you physically, or however it looks. Does that make sense? Can you see the patterns of this in your relationship? Can you see the patterns of this in most relationships out there? It's this idea of give and take, okay? It's checks and balances. We're constantly weighing to see, are they giving as much as I'm giving? Is he giving as much as I'm giving? Am I doing more work than him? Why do I always feel like I'm having the conversations? Why do I always feel like I'm the one that's bringing us up? I feel like I'm carrying more of the weight, right? And we get to this idea that it needs to be this equal partnership, okay? So if we're looking for a 50-50 partnership all the time, then the trap here is that can lead to some really big disappointments and some really big frustrations. And we're constantly negotiating with our partner to get our needs met. We're constantly analyzing, like I said, weighing, are they meeting my needs? Are they pulling their weight in this relationship? Are they doing as much as me, right? Does that sound familiar? And I've been there myself, so I know exactly what this feels like. And bottom line is that it is exhausting. It is exhausting to live like this, because we're constantly trying to assess if it's equal and if they're giving as much as I'm giving. And if they're not, then we think something's wrong, right? If it's completely not equal in a relationship, then something must be wrong. So I want to go back over, well, nah, I won't do that. All right. Yep, I'm seeing 100, 100, 100. So someone's saying give 100 and 100. That's right. So let's go to level 3. Well, first of all, weigh in. How much of this level of love is in your marriage? Like I said, for most marriages, that's where they reside. It's also where most couples fall apart. However, I do want to bring up this point that with teamwork, marital happiness is possible. So this is where most marriages reside. And this is where people talk about the work that it takes to make a marriage work, right? And that's okay. With teamwork, with good communication, open communication, healthy boundaries, working together to get needs met, you can find marital happiness here, all right? But at the same time, it is exhausting. It's possible, but it can be exhausting until you really learn how to work as a team. The reality is that it's never 50-50. Sometimes we might be pulling 90% of the weight, and they're giving 10% for whatever reason, right? It might be that they're going through a hard time or a health challenge or whatever it might look like. And so in that instance, we need to be the one giving more to the relationship. If they're pulling away from the relationship, if they're checked out of the relationship, then that's definitely the way that the scales are going to be tipped. It's not going to be 50-50. Do you see that when we expect it to be even and we expect them to be doing just as much as we are, that's where the discontent happens? That's when we start to get frustrated and we start to feel like something's wrong. It's not wrong. It's just the season that you're in. Because in in marriage, we have the waves, right? Riding waves up and down and up and down. And so sometimes we're at the peak of the wave, and sometimes we're at the bottom of the wave. And so sometimes they're going to be giving 90% and we're only going to be giving 10%. And that's okay, because we are there to work it out together, okay? Does that make sense? Does that resonate with you? Now, let's go to level 3. Level 3 is unconditional love. And I want to make a point here. It's not perfection, because we definitely have those ups and downs and those waves where we need to adjust and make things work out, because that's just life. We are imperfect beings, and we need to recognize that as imperfect beings, there will be some level of dysfunction in our relationships. Bottom line, there's going to be some level of dysfunction, okay? So let's stop trying to think that everything needs to be perfect, and if it's not perfect, then it's broken. That's not it at all. Embrace the dysfunction. Those are opportunities to learn and to grow and to become better and to ride through those waves together, okay? So it's not about perfection, but it is about loving without getting anything in return. It's loving without it being conditional on behaviors, actions, or attitudes. So it's loving someone regardless of how they treat you, what they say, what they do. I'm going to be completely honest. If I've lost you here, you're not alone. When I'm sharing this with most people, I tend to lose them here at this point because it seems a little bit like a fairy tale. It seems a little bit too far stretched. It seems like the pain and the challenges are too great, right? And I understand that. But I do want to share with you an experience that I had. So come with me back 4 years ago. I'm the one on the right. I'm the baldy, not the one with the goatee, right? So this is me and my husband 4 years ago in 2014 in the fall. And I was just been diagnosed with breast cancer at the age of 29. While we're pregnant, you can't see it in this picture, but I have a big belly. Whoops, go back. Oh no. How do I go back? Okay, maybe I have to escape and then go back. I want to show you the picture. There we go. That's what happens when I'm talking and not focusing on what buttons I'm pushing. Is it coming? Yes, yes. All right, I thrive. It worked. Okay, so you can't see my big belly in this picture, but I'm very pregnant at this time. And so I'm going to be completely honest. Up until this point, what I truly believed in my mind and in my heart was that I had to be X, Y, and Z to deserve love. And I'll show you exactly what that looked like for me. I had to be a good housewife. I had to love and nurture and take care of our children. I had to take good care of the house itself and be a good stay-at-home mom. I had to be physically attractive. I had to be physically, sexually attractive to my spouse and keep myself in good shape. Third, I had to be a good wife. I had to meet his needs. I had to be pleasing to him. I had to do my very best to make him happy. Okay? And if I wasn't X, Y, and Z, then I didn't deserve his love. And going even deeper than that, my real fear, my real belief was that if I wasn't this, this, and this, he was going to leave me. He was going to leave me. And I believed that somewhere along the way from childhood on, that I had to be this, this, and this. And if I wasn't that, he was going to leave me. And then when I got diagnosed with this and I went through this, suddenly I couldn't be X, Y, and Z anymore. I couldn't be the good mother taking care of our children. I couldn't meet their needs. I couldn't clean the house. I couldn't be physically attractive. Well, he said I was, but I was bald. I was pregnant. I lost my eyelashes. I lost a breast. I lost my eyebrows. I lost my health. I lost that spark of who I am. And I became a depleted version of myself. And I definitely couldn't meet his needs. I couldn't be the pleasing, wonderful wife to make him happy because I was in the fight of my life and I couldn't be any of those things. And I felt like I was just a vacuum that was just a black hole. Like I was sucking the life out of everything and everyone around me. And I realized something. He still loved me. He still loved me. And I wasn't X, Y, and Z anymore. And it astounded me. It completely blew my mind. Because if I wasn't those things, in my story that I had, he was supposed to leave me. I did not deserve love. And so in the midst of all of the pain and the chaos going on as I went forward battling with my health, I learned something about unconditional love from him. And I learned that I could be loved even when I wasn't those things I felt I needed to be. And I realized that that story was just that. It was a completely false story. And over time, I didn't recognize this right then. It's a journey, right? Not a single event or a moment. Over time, looking back over the past 4 years, I can see how that story, that if I'm not good enough and if I'm not all of these things, I could see how that story created chaos in myself over the years. I could see how it created chaos in my marriage. And I could see how subconsciously I wanted to have that love. I wanted to have that connection with him, but there was always a wall. I was always protecting myself against him. And I never fully trusted him. And I never fully allowed that kind of deep connection that I really wanted. Does that resonate with you? That you want something so deeply, but there's still some resistance to it, right? The very things that we want the most are often the things that subconsciously we push away because of fear and because of those limiting beliefs and those false stories. So bringing this all home for us is that unconditional love, it is possible. It is not just a fairy tale. And yes, Ben is a good man. I can see, probably some of you are saying, oh, well, you're just lucky you married a really good man. I did marry a really good man. However, that unconditional love that he showed me is within all of us. He's not unique. Each of us have the opportunity to tap into that well of unconditional love. And each of us have the opportunity to release those stories that aren't serving us anymore. They came and they showed up and they were there for a reason, and we can let them go with love. And we can say, this is the truth of who I really am. This is how I can choose to see the world. Now, question for you. So which one do you think supports, brings us, fills us, invigorates us with peace, contentment, and true happiness? Is it the give and take? Is it the I'll meet your needs when you meet mine? Is it the head over heels infatuation stage? Or is it choosing to love someone regardless of what they do for us? Which one is the one that gives us true and lasting joy, true and lasting peace? Because when we can make that shift, and I'm speaking from my heart here, from a state of, I need you to make me feel good about myself. I need you to make me feel secure. I need you to meet my needs, to a state of, I love myself unconditionally, and I can learn and I can show you unconditional love as well. So just breathe into that for a minute, because that's the truth. We want to leave anxiety behind. We want to leave depression behind. We want to leave the sadness, the tension, the guilt, the remorse, the pain, the bitterness that we're holding on to. This is how we do it. Now, I just want to clarify one thing. So Ben showed me unconditional love, but it still was a journey for me to accept it for myself. Just because I was a recipient of it at that time didn't mean that I fully received it, because I had to come to a journey where I believed that in myself and I could accept that of myself first. And that journey looked kind of messy and it was hard. But I've learned that there's two types of regret, right? There's two types of pain. There's the pain of hard work, and then there's the pain of regret. So we get to choose which one we want. And going through that process of unlearning those stories that I had the narrative that I had, that I wasn't good enough, that I didn't deserve love, I continued to hold on to that for at least another year. And I could see it got to the point, and I'll share this with you on Thursday, where my marriage almost ended because of this story and this narrative that I had built up about myself, about Ben, and about our marriage. And that moment was when I realized I've got to let this go. It's only creating chaos for us, and it isn't even true. It's time that I get to the truth of what really is, the truth of who I really am, so that I can live in a state of security, in a state of inner calm, a state of inner wellness. So that's my encouragement to you. Understand that wherever you are right now in your marriage, in your life, and with your love, no matter which level we are, we can change, we can progress, and we can get there. But the first journey that must be had is the one within ourselves. And that as we open ourselves up to loving ourselves unconditionally, to releasing the pain, releasing the guilt, releasing the false stories, that is when the external circumstances change. And it's beautiful. And I'm so grateful that I've been able to go on that journey. And that journey right there is what's inspired me to do this work to help others come along this way. So, will you go on this journey with me? Will you take up this challenge? Will you take a look at where you are in your life? What is that block between where you are and where you want to be? Because that limiting belief, that story is not the truth of who you are. And that's the work that we do, is we help you understand exactly what that limiting belief is, what that root issue is. We pluck that out, and it's a process. But right, you choose the pain of hard work or the pain of regret. You choose. So, will you join me on this journey? And if so, I would love to be able to help get you there, because I'm here with you. I've gone through this myself, and I know that it's not easy, but I know at the end of the day, it is absolutely worth it. And if you want to know, then go ahead and leave a comment and say, teach me to love myself. Show me how to love myself. I want to love myself. Anything like that, because that's the first step. And then I'll reach out to you and PM you, and we'll have a good conversation about how we can get you there. I want to learn how to love myself. When you can learn to love yourself, then you can give that kind of love to others. And then you can receive that love yourself. And it's a beautiful way to live. Appreciate you. And I will talk to you on Thursday. Go deeper into our story. But I appreciate you guys. You guys have a fantastic day. And let's move toward that state of unconditional love.